Miss Nothing, Amaryllis, 2030. Things are different in this now. She and Leroy had gone back in time and changed things. Now things are different in this time, which should be her time, but as far as she can tell, Amaryllis Maria Sanchez was never even born. To make matters worse, she'd lost Leroy on the trip back here to 2030. In a way, they were both lost. She didn't know how to find either one of them. But the Las Vegas library seemed like a good place to start. That is what she's searching for now as she scrolls through the digital records with a woman who had been her best friend, but now had no recollection of growing up with her or their friendship, and they were coming up empty. Monique was different too. She wasn't the bright, vivacious woman who she had called Shaman Woman because of her abilities to see the future. The woman who was helping her now looked like the same woman, gnarled and wrinkled from Crohn's disease, but she was more reserved and down to earth, claiming to have no psychic abilities. But she couldn't help but think that the woman she knew was in there somewhere. "I think I found something," Monique said, bringing Amaryllis out of her reverie. Her crone's body was sitting bent over a screen reader, scrolling through the old records, her wiry red hair pulled back neatly in a bun at the base of her neck. "Come here." Amaryllis abandoned her own reader, moving over to see what Monique had found. They had been searching through the records to see if they could discover what had changed back in Leroy's time, which would have affected things in the 21st century to change things so drastically. "Didn't you say your grandmother's name was Sally Jean Stanton?" Monique asked. "Yeah. So what did you find?" she asked, peering over Monique's shoulder to see the screen, tucking a dark lock which had strayed from her ponytail back behind her ear. "This article is out of the Black Rock Herald from March 15th, 1888, Monique said. "That's about 6 months after you made your jump through time, right?" "Yeah, it happened in August of 1887, so that sounds about right," Amaryllis said. "Why? What does it say?" "It looks like Sally Jean Stanton was abducted about 3 days after your departure by some men calling themselves the Johnson Gang," Monique said, summarizing the newspaper article for her. "That could be the event you're looking for. I'm going to see if I can find an article that tells the outcome." "Good idea," Amaryllis said. "Maybe when we're through here, you can throw your possum bones and do a reading. That might give us some insight, too." "Look, I told you, I'm not that person that you call Shaman Woman," Monique said. "I'm just a librarian in charge of the records department who has access to lots of information if I'm willing to put the work into doing the research. There's nothing psychic about it. I don't read the bones or anything like that. If you're right and you have altered time, that woman you know may never have existed." "So your grandmother didn't give you her possum bones before she passed?" Amaryllis said skeptically. This woman was too much like Monique she had known in 2025. She knew deep down the shaman woman was in there, just waiting to come out. "I know you see things." "Once in a while I see something, but I don't know the meaning of what I see," Monique said. She rose from her reader, walking over to her desk, opening the top right-hand drawer. She pulled out a black velvet drawstring bag, holding it up for Amaryllis to see. "And yes, my grandmother gave me her bones, but I don't have the first clue about how to read them. They are right here where I put them the day I got them. I keep them to remember my grandmother by, but I've never tried to use them." "Well, I've been going through the birth and death records, which were pretty sketchy back then," Amaryllis said. "I didn't find a death record for Sissy, but I did find a marriage certificate for my great-great-great-grandfather. But he married some other woman, a Lydia Louise Mayfair. For some reason, he didn't marry Sissy, so that's why she was never my grandmother. I was never born. I guess I'm just Miss Nothing." "You must have been born," Monique said. "I keep telling you, if you were never born, you wouldn't be standing here now. You must have been born under a different circumstances in this time. Technically, that would make you a different person. You could be Miss Everything for all we know. We need to figure out who you are and why Sally Jean Stanton didn't marry your grandfather. Well, if she died, she wouldn't be able to marry him, Amaryllis said. True, but that can't be the only plausible reason, Monique said. We need to look at all the possibilities. So you're telling me I was born in this timeline, but I'm somebody else? Amaryllis said. That's great. Maybe I should be searching for clues for who I am then, instead of who we know I'm not. If you had any idea where to start looking, that could be possible, Monique said. We can only search with the facts that we know. Hey, look at this, she said, glancing down at the eye-catching cover of a book which had been left on the desk next to her reader by some inconsiderate library patron who couldn't take the time to place it on the cart, so it could be reshelved. This couple on the cover looks just like Leroy and I. She picked it up for a closer look. It's a time travel novel. Check this out. The Rockstar and the Outlaw. Monique came over to see the book in question as Amaryllis flipped through the pages, reading little snippets of the story. Look, this is our story. The same one I've been telling you. Even the names are the same. How could she know all this? When was this published? Monique asked. Amaryllis perused the front pages for the copyright. 2024, she said, a year before Leroy and I met at that throwback from the 70s club. Well, we already know time is irrelevant, Monique said. Who's the author? Some woman named Kaye Booth, she said. According to her bio, she lived in Colorado. Amaryllis read a few more passages. It was the story of her and Leroy's adventure in time, right down to the smallest detail. Wait, you don't think... It's a place to start. I'm punching her name and the information we have into the Ancestry database now, Monique said, turning to her computer station, frantically typing the data in. After a few minutes of staring at her screen, she said, well, there's nothing to confirm or deny that premise. I can trace the author back a generation, but her mother was adopted, so the trail ends there. The adopted parents aren't in your family tree. So what does that mean? Amaryllis asked, rolling the possibilities around in her brain. She is or isn't me? She would be a different version of you, shaped by the circumstances of the life she's lived. There's no way to trace it to know for sure, Monique said, but it's possible. No, wait. She squinted down at her computer screen. The dates don't line up. This woman was much older than you. She shut the unit down. Let's call it a day, huh? My eyes are tired and I could use a soak in a hot tub and a nice glass of carrot juice. Tomorrow we can check the birth records to see if that author has any kids. It might explain it if she had a daughter your age. Amaryllis looked over the book once more, fanning the pages before setting it back on the desk. Bring those bones with you, Amaryllis said, pointing to the bag of bones. You never know when they might come in handy. There's got to be a way to take it back. Monique shrugged, scooping up the black velvet pouch, placing it in the pocket of her wide-legged, cream-colored pants. She wore loose-fitting clothes to hide her crone-like condition, an effect of the Werner syndrome, which plagued her. Just one more thing that was so like the friends she grew up with, yet different. Where shaman woman had worn bright-colored muumuus and caftans, adorning herself in gold and silver jewelry, this Monique wore neutral colors, and wore her unruly flame-red hair pulled back in a neat bun. Their conversation came to an abrupt halt when they were interrupted by a man in a gray duster stepping into the records room, drawing both of their attention. "Can I help you?" asked Monique.